So I have a question for you. What is your favorite sports team or hobby? Oh, we get some conflicting. What's your favorite sports team or hobby? What do you got?
Tennessee Vols.
Oh, I felt that one coming. I saw it coming.
Auburn Tigers.
We got Auburn. All right, what we got? What we got right there? What you got, young lady? Bring it home. Baltimore. That was something I didn't expect, but I appreciate that. Anybody else? Huh? LSU, I was going to say, if you didn't say it, I felt bad for you. I feel like y'all are being kind of coy a little bit. Y'all, Quest Soccer. I heard Tennessee. I know there's the Vols, all you Vols fans. I appreciate y'all. Who's that? Gators. Oh, we came out of nowhere left field. Something's burning.
Sacramento State.
Whoa! Whew, got me. Hit me in my heart. I know there's some Alabama fans out there. I know y'all back here. I knew you was coming. I knew you were. I saw you. You think I didn't see you back here? The whole corner is Alabama.
Pickleball.
I know. It's okay, huh? Pickleball. Okay. So here's the thing. Listen, like that's what I said. I felt like you guys were being a little coy. It's like if you ever been to a Vols game in your life, like if you've ever been to a Vols game, they ain't nobody going, go Vols. It's like, Vol for life, baby! Woo! That's how they do it. Like, I know. I've been there. I'm a Kentucky Wildcat fan. I know. Hey, we got beat by Vanderbilt. We can't get any lower than that. I'm sorry. So it is what it is. I don't know. We don't know. Who knows? So here's the thing. It's so interesting when you ask what team do you follow or what hobbies. Typically, if I ask you, it tends to be this. This ain't always the case, but for the most part, you tend to follow the team that your family follows. Tends to. Not always. This ain't always the case. But I would say the majority of the time, your family or the hobbies that you enjoy are probably the same things that your family enjoys, right? Maybe you were all about camping because your family was all about camping. Or maybe you were a Vols fan. You grew up, go Big Orange, right? All the time. And you were all about that. And you cheer that team on. Why? Because the influence that your family has is so much bigger than most people would think. Now, I know there's some people that are in here that might say, well, my house is divided, and I am so sorry for you, because that makes life so much different and so hard when you have a house divided. And what I mean house divided is ball teams. Now, it's hard. I couldn't imagine being a Tennessee Vols fan and then have a Florida fan in the same house. That is hard. I don't know how many marriages didn't make it because of that, but I guarantee you that was a hard day or whatever. But here's the reality. The parents have so much influence in your kid's life. You have so much influence. They look up to you. That, like I said, whether it's good or it's bad, they look up to you. And that's perfectly fine. The fact is, this is the fact. The fact is, if you hold something important, your kids will find it important too. Whatever it is you find important, your kids will find it important too. And what I mean by that is like I said, ball team. Maybe it's not the most thing, but because my dad loves it, I'm going to be right there with my dad and hunker in because I want to love him and be with him, spend time. Because like what I say, kids love what? T-I-M-E. That's not always the case. Or maybe it's mom. It's like I said, it's not 100%, but it's most of the time. So the Bible tells us in Proverbs 22:6, it reads like this. It says, start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. But another version says it like this. Start children off on the right path. Think about that. Have you ever thought about that? Like start children off on the right path? Think about it. What do you do? What's the first thing you do when you go on a trip? What's the first thing y'all do? Anybody do anything crazy? What you do? What you got? Bring a snack. That ain't what I would have went on. Bring some snacks. I appreciate you bringing snacks, though, because you can see this figure is beautiful. I ain't going nowhere without snacks. There ain't a youth trip we've been on, we ain't got no snacks. I'm just saying. So, what's that? Get directions. That's what I do, right? You pull up the GPS. That's one of the things I do. I pull up the GPS, and I see how long it's going to take me to get there, right? I'm going to look at my ETA. What's that? My estimated time of arrival, right? Has anybody ever played the estimated time of arrival game? Yes. Oh, thank you. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are my people. Estimated time of arrival game. If you ain't ever played it, welcome to the game. It's when you try to beat the estimated time of arrival. That's what you do. You ain't ever tried to do that? It says I'm going to be here by 3:30. It's like, I'm going to cut 10, 15 minutes off. We'll see what happens. Never been dangerous, promise. But it's the estimated time of arrival game. You ain't never done it. It's great. You see, and you look at the routes, right? You see which way you're going to go. You look at the GPS. See, for those of you who don't have GPS or hadn't done that, this is when you'd break out the Atlas or MapQuest and you would look back. Kids have no idea what that is. But your GPS, you'd look and see the different routes. So what does that do? These different paths that you take, that ETA, that estimated time of arrival is going to tell you where you're going to get or how far you're going to get. So what does that do? The destination and the time it takes to get there determines the path we're going to take. Right? Think about that. The destination and the time it takes to get there determines the path we're going to take. If I can cut off 2 minutes, I'm going to cut off 2 minutes. I'm going to try that. That's how I am. I'm like, it'd be like, redirect. I'm like, we redirecting. Let's do this. Let's see what's happening. It's like, you could say 5 minutes. I'm like, 5 minutes? That's a big deal on GPS. I know, rush world, ain't we? So, I want you to look at this right here. We've kind of talked about this before, but there is 936 marbles in this thing, right? This is kind of what Justin talked about the first time. I don't know if he talked about it last week, but this is kind of our timetable. There's 936 weeks from the time a child is born to the time they graduate high school. So time is going, and each one of these marbles represents 1 week in the life of a child. So as you look down here, as you look through these marbles here, this is where we're at in 7th grade. So if you have a 7th grader, this is where you're at. Even less than that, because that's at the beginning of the year. You have roughly 312 weeks left. Does that make you nervous for those of you who have 7th graders? I'm going to pull one out of let's see what else I can find here. I'm going to pull another one out here. Here's a 9th grade one. It's going to hurt somebody. I don't know who, but this is the reality. So we have 208, roughly 208 weeks left in the life of a 9th grader. So what's that? 208. But that's at the beginning of the year when you have 52 weeks, 208. So right now, I pulled out, Justin talked a little bit about the Parent Q app. I got to pull this out because it's going to make me cry. But I looked it up when he said it. I thought about this. I have 246 weeks left until my little girl is graduating high school. That's what this Parent Q app, I don't know for you guys, you're like, I don't know. But when you start to count what matters, when you start to think about what matters, you will use those weeks. Each week we take a marble out, and that's 52 weeks a year. I'm not here to depress you, but I'm trying to tell you this. Here's the reality. When you see how much time you have left, you tend to get serious about the time you have now. Right? That's what I want to tell you. When you see how much time you have left, you tend to get serious about the time you have now. Because they'll only be this age once. Think about it. People say all the time, I can't wait till I get to 4, till they're 5, till they're 6. Don't ever wish that away. Say, enjoy the season you're in at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through. Enjoy that season. Because it's just a phase. Don't miss it. You don't want to miss it. Because it's beautiful. It's beautiful in every phase. So I want to throw up this little picture up here. Time is super short. Now you see this right here? This is called time spent with the family. And this might not be good for you, but I'll tell you what it is. So if we look at this map, as you see, about 4.5 hours at 15 is about the amount of time that you spend with the family. These are hours per day, about 4.5. But then as you come down, you're about 18. Look, it drops down about 4, a little under 4. But then it peaks back up at 18. 18 is like the peak, and it's right at 4 hours a day. But look at that steady decline. Look at that. It's a steady decline down and out because they're busy, right? They work, they're in college, or they're doing stuff. What I'm telling you is time is short, so make the best of the time you have now in the phase that you have now. Do all the cool things. And I think about that for me. Like last week I told Justin this. I said, I'm the money guy at my house. Like I'm not very we're not going to do this. Like let's just be real about it. End up going, I went to Disney and I'm like, I just don't know about all this. Like I feel like we could just do Dollywood. Like it would just be way easier and way smarter. But I'll tell you what, it was not. Let me tell you why. When I saw that one photo session, that one picture, changed everything in my life. Like it changed everything. Why? Because it was a moment I didn't miss.
That's right.
It was a moment I didn't miss. It changed my whole perspective. Let me go that route. It changed my perspective, right? Because I can always make more money, but I can't make more time.
That's right.
Right? So it'll never be there again. It'll never be there again. So today I want to challenge you. We're going to be talking about something that's very important in this series, and it's called, we're going to be talking about what matters. We're going to be talking about what matters. So buckle up. Here we go. It's going to be fun. So I think it's pretty fitting for me to speak on this subject because if you don't know me, if you've been here the first time, 50th time or whatever, you might know this about me. I enjoy talking to people. Maybe you're not that way, but I love talking to people. I enjoy talking to people. I like to say hello. If you didn't hear me today, it's probably because I was walking around thinking about something or praying about something on my way in. But typically you'll hear me say, welcome home. I'm usually the first person you hear. Because for one, I'm really loud. If I took this microphone off, I guarantee you I could project anybody could hear me in this room, even if you're wearing a hearing aid. I guarantee it. It's just the way God created me, and he made me that way to be loud. But I love talking to people. And I think it's kind of funny that I get this week of the series that we talk about things that matter. So what do we mean when we talk about things that matter, especially in a kid's life? There's things that we think are important, and there's a whole bunch of things that are super important in the life of a kid, any kid from birth all the way till they're an adult, right? There's all kinds of things we could talk about, but we're going to focus on 3 specific things today. And those 3 things are this. We're going to be talking about technology, we're going to be talking about relationships, and we're going to be talking about faith. So, I want to ask you a question. How are you involved in your kids' technology? Are you involved in any of your kids' technology? Some of your parents might be like, I don't really look at what they got going on. Let me tell you, I am a student pastor. And I know all the things. And I'm not saying that I'm like the guru, but I'm going to tell you this. There is a lot out there for your students. There's a lot out there for your little kids. And I'm not just talking about phones. I'm talking about iPads. I'm talking about all the things. There's unfettered access to everything on the internet. And I'm not saying that the internet's bad because I am a tech. If y'all know me, I'm a tech guy. I love technology. But there's some inherently different things that happen because of tech it's good. And then some of it's not so good. But the good was for all of us, we all lived through a pandemic, right? One of the cool things that we were able to do because of the pandemic, everybody learned what Zoom was, even if you didn't know. Like you figured it out. You had to learn something, right? Like because you had to connect in some way, shape, or form. And because of that technology, it was able to connect us. And I'm very appreciative of that being that part of tech. But like there's some things that kind of open doors. We live in one of the most technological ages ever. The access, like I said, to information is endless, and we as parents and guardians need to help our kids navigate the world because let me tell you what it is. It's literally unforgiving.
That's right.
It's unforgiving. So let me share some facts with you. Social media platforms can help build needed connections with like-minded individuals, increase feelings of belonging, and introduce someone to a diversity of thinking. But on the flip side of that, overuse of social platforms can increase the prevalence of anxiety and depression. And we're seeing that day in and day out. Also, participation in social media platforms can result in a social media identity bubble. And what I mean by that is in which individuals only begin to behave and communicate in ways that connect with and is praised by a particular group of which they are affiliated. See, this could also lead to like groupthink, where they don't, like that's something that a lot of us as older people, anyone who's not a Generation Zer, let me tell you, you don't understand. Like this is their primary form of communication is social. That's what they do. Like, that's what they do. Like Xbox, PlayStation, all the ways, phones, that's how they communicate. But let me tell you what, that doesn't mean that you just kind of give them all the things. That's how they communicate. Some of us might not understand because you remember, some of you guys remember this, having to be home before the street light comes on. Anybody get that? That nobody can get access to you. Appreciate that. Or drinking out of the water hose. Maybe you did that. I did that. That's where I was at. So those things, type of things like that. Or for me, it was going to the pool in the summer. Like I'd go to the Legion Street pool because I grew up in Keystone. And we'd go up to Legion Street and I'd swim. Then you get on the pavement because it was hot. And you would just dry out because the new mom's coming. Like maybe y'all know about that, but that's what I used to do. those are the things that we used to do a little differently than what kids today would do, because their access to friends is literally on a device, where our access to friends were, let's go, you got to go find them. Right? It was different. So sometimes we even have a hard time as student, like as people who were like, I don't understand why you're not having parties and why are you not hanging out, and it's not the same social circle. That's not how that works all the time. Now there are some anomalies, there are some people that do different than that, but for the most part, Generation Z is totally comfortable with hanging out the house. They're totally cool with that because everything they have is right there, right? Xbox here, Cheetos here, milk's here, we're good. Let's go. Grab me a Pepsi or a Coke and let's make it rock. We're good with that. See, that's just the way it is. They've literally always had social media. It says Generation Z spends about 10.6 hours engaging with online content every day. That's average. 10.6. That's truth. That's the truth. And it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So as people who care about the next generation, myself being one of them, social media has the potential to bring empowerment to someone's ability to construct a personal identity. This can increase feelings of autonomy, personal control, and independence. Like I said, I don't think social media is bad. Like we stream on Twitch. I think social is it's not going anywhere. This is where we are. It's moving forward. It's just the way, it's just different. Like you remember, like some of you guys can remember when the TVs come out, or when it was new, or like, you had the 3 button. I only had the 5 station. I remember that when the little turned out. That's all I remember. I didn't really listen to the radio to listen to Buck Rogers and all that. I didn't do any of that stuff. But like every single thing is different. Like some people couldn't imagine that people would sit at home and watch TV when you could be outside. You see what I'm saying? Like it's kind of the same transition. Like you just don't understand it because you didn't live it. But when you were my age, you would live that. And it's like TV to me was like phenomenal. Like movies to me, even now they're transitioning from a lot of people going to the movie theaters to like going home. I would rather go to the movies. I like going to the movies. There's something special for me about going into a theater. But that's because I grew up that way, right? So I think, like I said, there's a lot of pros and cons to these things, but they're important. Like I said, Generation Z will never have the same way that I grew up, but what's awesome about them, their connections, the way they connect and the way they talk, in this phase of life is perfect for them. But we have to, as parents and as people who love them, parents, guardians, aunts, uncles, we need to teach them how to navigate this world because there's something outside of the internet. So some kids don't know how to connect because they've always been plugged into a device. It's true. It's true. They keep their head down. Have you ever went to a restaurant and you see people all around the table and they all have their head down? It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And I think as people who are just older in a different generation, we tend to look at it and be like, that's bad. Well, that's what they know. Like, think about it. They've always grown up with technology. They've always had phones. They've always had internet as we know it right now. That's not something that we always did. Like 1-800-COLLECT, they don't know what that is. You know what I mean? They don't know what that is. Had a baby, it's a boy. They don't know about that. You see what I'm saying? You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. Where's the beef? There's another one. There's a lot of them. See what I'm saying? But like, y'all can go see, but the cool thing is they can go to YouTube and look it up. See there? Like that's crazy. Like that's where they go to YouTube. They'll find everything we just talked about. Go type in right now. You can go to YouTube and type in 1-800-COLLECT. That one's going to come up. Guarantee it. 100%. But see, that's involved in that 10 hours. We say something like, well, let me go see what that is. What you talking about? And they'll go look it up. That's how they learn. So, there it is. Yeah, ask Siri. Listen, David Lee, she's like, we just asked Siri. Siri, where are we going? Wherever you want to take me. She'd be like, Chris, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, sorry. Because I'm country and I'm from Tennessee, she don't act like she can't hear me. I said, there goes Siri. Not listen to me again, Jordan. She don't pay no attention. So what is a good, our goal is to navigate what's a good and healthy relationship, what's good and healthy. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about what matters in our relationships, right? Let's talk about that. So we need to be talking about relationships with our kids. I'm not talking about relationships as in dating. Yes, that's part of it. But also our friend-type relationships. Like there's so many different people. Parents, I want to challenge you. Like who are the people that your kids are hanging out with? Do you know them? Do you know who they are? Have you invited them over their house? Have you done stuff? Let me tell you what. There are some good ones, there's some bad ones. If somebody would have categorized me when I was in high school, they'd have probably been like, Chris, you're not a very good person. Not a very good, nice person. But here's the cool thing. I love how Jesus can take, no matter where you are or what you are, he can take you and change you completely, 180 you. I've seen him in my own life. Like he literally 180'd my whole entire life of what I thought was right, good, and awesome, and he 180'd me and turned me into a child of God. It changed my whole, everything I did. If you'd have told me I'd have been standing on a stage, sitting in front of a church, telling people about Jesus, I'd be like, you are crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy, because that's not something I would do. So what is a good and healthy relationship? What's something that God is, who are the people that are in your kid's life? Can you help them navigate? They need your help. That's the reality. They don't think it, because most kids, right, when they start to become teenagers, they're grown. Would y'all agree with that? They're like, we're just grown. We know what we're doing. We've done this. But they need your help to navigate this world, to help them, to kind of move. Like I said, I have a 13-year-old who knows everything. She's going on 50. I swear she is. She acts like she knows it all. I'm like, she'll be like, she'll argue me to the ground. And I'm like, Jordan, why she act like you all the time? You know what she tells me? She says, you know what she says? She says, Chris, that is you. I said, don't you talk to me like that. And then I proceed by saying, you know she's lying. And I said, you don't be talking to me like that. I said, I don't act like that. And she's like, you hear what you just said? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you don't act like that. Why are you arguing with me? I'm like, I'm not. I'm not arguing with you. See what I'm saying? Like, man, do y'all ever see that in your kids? You see them, they act just like you and you blame it on the other parent? That's what we do around my house, because she acts just like me, and she's awesome like Jordan, but she acts like me. It's sad. So I'm like, girl, quit arguing with everybody. She's like, well, I can't, Dad. I don't argue with anybody. I'm like, here you are. And then we'll talk for 10 minutes yelling at each other, talking about what we're talking about. I'm like, no, we're just loud people. So let me keep moving. This is what's cool, though. Knowing Kinsley's friends. I got an opportunity. It was kind of cool to go and substitute. I used to do that a lot at Kinsley's school. And I would substitute in her school. And one day, this is one of those heart deals. She asked me, she said, Dad, pull this one off. She said, Dad, my friends and I would like to come eat lunch with you. I said, come on. I actually told her no. I'm just kidding. I didn't tell her. How could you tell that baby no? She said, Dad, we just want to hang out with you and eat lunch with you. I said, okay. All right. I asked some teachers, because I was substituting, and they said, yeah, it's fine. So they knew me because I've been around the town for like 7 years, so they knew who I was. So they all come, and they sit at the table. Man, I called my wife after it's done, all the chatter, the girl chatter, I'm telling you, it's a whole different world. They was like, oh, girl, he didn't text me back, and this. I was like, what is happening? I called Jordan, I said, they invited me to the table, Jordan. They invited me to the table. I said, I'm the cool dad. I felt like the cool dad. I said, they let me in. It was so great. I didn't get invited back since, but I was invited to the table, y'all. I sat there as they talked about girl stuff, and they was like, girl, you didn't get your hair done, get your nails done. I was like, what? I didn't know. I was like, girl, I got my hair done. I was all in. That is a moment in my life that I'll never forget that was so special. See, that's why I say all this slide. It's a phase, so don't miss it. I got an opportunity to do that because of that. It's a great thing. I was super pumped because I got to participate in something my kid was doing, and she wanted me to be there. It's a special, special moment. See, so my question to you is, what are the relationships your kids have with people online, in your neighborhoods, and in their schools? Do you know what they are? I hope that you will figure out and find out who they are, because let me tell you what, they're all over the place. The kids, they love to that's one thing that my generation didn't do that this generation does. They will friend people that they don't even know yet. That's different than something. Like if I don't know you, we ain't friends. If I'm questionable, if I know you, we ain't friends. Just saying, I'm weird like that. I'm like, I don't know who that person is doing on me. And then I have to ask 400 people. I'm like, you know this person? This one? Oh, they was at church. Sorry, I didn't know. Sorry. It helps me. But I got it like, if you're my friend, it's because I know you. I've seen you physically. We've said, what's up? We've dapped or something. We've probably hugged. If I haven't hugged you yet, I will hug you. But that's how that works in my world. So that's what they do. You know what's awesome, though? Our relationship is there just friendship, or is there something deeper in your child's life? That's what you need to find out. There's some questions. So we just had this series in student ministry. It was called Real Friends. It talked about actually having real friends, like people that are not just your fly-by-night people, like your people, like your people, right? Like, you know what it's like when you're around your people and you don't have to pretend who you are. Just, this is who I am. Take me 100%, right? That is so much fun and a game changer, right? Like, it changes the whole climate of things when you're around your people. See, Jesus had 12 of those. And I think sometimes we forget, like, I'm not saying that everybody's not going to be your people, but there are just some people that just get you. Like, Justin and I have been best friends since what? What's been, 14 years, 15 years now? We don't even count no more. We don't even care. We've been friends for forever.
Anniversary.
We're still working on it. So when you meet people that are just your people, you just get them. And Jesus had 12 of those people that he hung out with. I think that kids should have some real friends that they can truly trust. Not just people that they interact with online, but people they truly trust. And I think sometimes it's hard to navigate that because they want to trust people. And that's why I always talk to my small group leaders. I'm like, guys, like, love on your people. Like, love on your people. And I want to challenge you guys. Love on your people. Like, there are kids that walk in this building every day. They maybe not even had a hug this week. They just hug them. Now, I'm not telling you if you don't like hugs, don't do that. But I'll hug you. If you need a hug, come hug me. I'm all in every day. If anybody ever asks you, I'm all in every day. I'll hug you. I promise. So let's talk a little bit about what matters. This last one, we'll kind of wrap it up. What is faith? We're going to talk about what matters in faith. What matters in faith? What is faith? Faith is complete in trust or confidence in something or someone. Faith, in my opinion, is the most important conversation or talk that you can have with your student or your kid. I believe that with everything that's in me. Why do I say that? Not because I'm a student pastor. If I took off the student pastor hat and I was just Chris, because Jesus literally changed my life. Like, that conversation that you have with your kids every day, like, I always ask Kinsley every day, when she goes into school, I say, this is literally what I tell her every single day. I want you to be a light in a dark world. Like, literally go into that school and be a light in a dark world. Because it's not easy. The things the kids deal with these days are extremely more difficult. I would say, I'm not saying everybody's like, well, y'all don't have it hard. It's a little bit, I would say this world that they live in now is way more difficult than what we used to live in. Unfeathered access all the time. Could you imagine? Like, I'm not talking about, like, if you got into a fight at school, you could go home and you probably wouldn't see them until you go back to school on Monday. Well, now you're there all the time. Like, you mess up, make one mistake, one thing, and it's just hard. So faith, to me, is the most important conversation you can have with your kids. So let's travel to 2 Timothy, and it reads like this. We'll read it real quick. 3:14 and 15. It says, but as for you, continue in what you have learned and have been convinced of, because you know those from whom you learned it. And here's the big one. Just hold in on this one. And how, from infancy, you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through the faith in Jesus Christ. You see, at the beginning of 2 Timothy chapter 3, he's telling us about the last days and how people will be lovers of themselves and not of God. But here's the cool thing. Then Timothy hits us with a but. I love that. That's my favorite thing in all of Scripture, but. But is my favorite. See, y'all can take that on context, but is my favorite. He tells us to continue what we have learned and we have been convinced of. See, do we talk about the things, do we talk about our faith with our kids? Do we talk about Christ with our kids? Do we have conversations about Jesus, like what Jesus has done in our lives? Like, I think sometimes when we navigate, I know it's hard, like when the best conversations, I'll tell you right now as a student pastor, the best conversations with the middle schoolers on the way to school. If you drop them off, it's the best conversation ever. Because, like, especially with middle school boys, they don't like to talk like this. They like to talk like this. So you sit with them and you drive them to school. I talk to Kinsley all the time. She wants to look at me in the face. I'm like, I'm driving, I'll wreck. But having those conversations on the way to school, like that Parent Cue app helps you with that. It'll say, hey, what's it going to look like as you drive to school this morning, or you drop your kids off, or maybe when they get up, or when you're going to bed at night. It's a time for every single person. And for me, that was every morning we have that conversation on the way to school. Do you model what faith should look like? Like I said, I love the buts, because here's why I love the buts. It lets me know that no matter how my life was before Christ, life is always different after the but. See, God literally steps in, and what does it say in Ephesians 2, 1 through 7? It reads like this. As for you, you were dead in your trespasses and sin, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of the world and of the rulers of the kingdom of the air and the spirits who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us who also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of the flesh and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were, by nature, deserving of wrath. And here's my favorite part. What does it say? But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved, and God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus. But God changes everything. No matter, like even in your, like especially in your kid's life, like God changes everything. The conversations are so much different. All of the things we just talked about, the technology, the relationships, and your faith. Literally, God, when God changes you or changes your heart, it will change everything. He'll change your whole life. He'll change your whole direction. For me, it led me somewhere that I never thought I would go. I never thought I'd be at Northridge Community Church. God knew there was going to be a Northridge Community Church. Chris Carter never knew there was going to be one. I know Justin didn't know there was going to be one, but I know Jim did. God was working. See, when we were dead in our transgressions, but God, who is rich in mercy, are you grateful that Christ is so merciful? He is for me. He changed my life. So, as the band comes back up, as we wrap up this kind of talk, as we dive into a few little things, I want to say, kind of closing everything up. I want to give you some practical things that you can do as you go out and about. So here are some practicals. One of the things we do, we must embrace our kids' technology. Why? Because it's, like I said before, it's not going anywhere. Embrace it. So the world is going to continue to become more and more digital. And parents, we need to insert ourselves in the conversation. You need to know how to navigate some of these apps. Like I said, you might not know about them, but you need to educate yourself a little bit. Because if we're people who love the next generation, just educate yourself about what they are and what they do. That's what I try to do. If I don't know, I grab a college kid or I grab a teenager and I say, hey, tell me about this. What's this about? Help me out. But like I said, I'm a little techie, so I enjoy learning and navigating that world. We need to show them how to use technology responsible. How can you use that responsible? The question we need to be asking ourselves is this. This is a great question. How can we leverage technology in our kids' current phase? How can we leverage technology in our kids' current phase? And are we aware of the time that we have left with them? Are we aware that there's a short amount of time? Listen, this is happening. For some of you, it's already passed, but you can start right here today and say, hey, let me start to count my days. Justin mentioned this, and I didn't even know he mentioned it. That song that's Fly Like an Eagle. Maybe you heard it when you were walking in. It was very intentional. It was very intentional. Time keeps on slipping into the future. It is. And my question is, are you ready for what's happening? Are you prepared? I hope and pray that you are. See, we must do number 2. We must interact with our kids and our relationships, because the best relationships they can have is with the Lord. The best relationship, period, is with the Lord. If they have a growing relationship with the Lord, they will never be lonely, no matter what. They'll always have Jesus right there with them. Always. Of course, they'll have us, and they'll have other people. But Jesus calls us to have a relationship not only with our kids, but to have a relationship with Him. So, is that not what we want for our kids, to have a relationship and a growing relationship with the Lord? And what else? We must talk to our kids about faith. We must help them to navigate what it means to follow Jesus and how He has made a difference in our lives. We must talk about what really matters. And to kind of wrap all of this up, this is our final takeaway. When we choose to talk about what matters in each phase, it helps us to direct our kids' path. So I want to challenge you in that. Are we talking about what matters? Or are we just kind of going through life? So as the band sings and as we go, I pray that you will have a good conversation with Jesus right now.